A pleasant evening and a warm welcome to the national news on Channel I. I'm Dulanjali Ananda.
A very good evening indeed. I am Charity Vinuprarachi, and now let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news.
Necessary operational powers vested with the Presidential Task Force to maintain the daily life of the people. A work from home period declared from March 30th to April 3rd. Many state institutions including Central Bank of Sri Lanka, commercial banks, insurance services and the Treasury have been converted into essential services. Providing of relief loans for Samurdhi beneficiaries commenced today. Distribution of medicines for patients in their residences during curfew imposed period said to be conducted through the postal service. Italy's south braces for the rapid spread of coronavirus.
For those and other stories in detail on your top story. The police headquarters announced today that the curfew in Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Jaffna districts identified as high-risk zones for COVID-19 will continue to be enforced until further notice. The enforced curfew in the remaining districts in the northern province is set to be lifted at 6 a.m. tomorrow. The curfew imposed in the district of Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Jaffna regarded as a high-risk zones will be enforced until further notice. The curfew in Putlam district and the northern provincial districts Vaunia, Mannar, Kilinochchi and Mullaitiya will be lifted at 6 a.m. tomorrow. The curfew in these districts will be reimposed at 2 p.m. on the same day. The curfew in these districts will be enforced until 6 a.m. on Monday, March 30th, and the curfew will be reimposed at 2 p.m. on the same day. The curfew reimposed in the remaining districts will be lifted on Monday, March 30th at 6 a.m. and will be reimposed at 2 p.m. on the same day. Inter-district transportation has been fully prohibited and the sightseeing tours of foreign tourists have also been prohibited. People in agricultural or tea smallholder exportation processes in any district have been permitted to engage in their activities. The permission has also been granted for the transportation of essential services including media and food rations during curfew hours. The police headquarters announcement has mentioned that the airport and port services have been permitted to maintain their operations for the passengers leaving the island through flights. The duration from March 30th to April 3rd has been declared as work from home period. Accordingly, this will apply to all state, semi-government and private sector entities, except which are categorized as essential services. The period is not considered as public holidays. Uninterrupted continuation of public service is a responsibility of the government. However, the objective of this measure is to prevent unnecessary gathering of people and pave the way for self-quarantine. Earlier, a work from home was announced from March 20th to 27th. The government has announced that the same procedure should be followed during this period as well.
And meanwhile, the government has commenced a program to distribute necessary medicines for patients in their respective residences through the postal service during the curfew imposed period to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force established for the continuous supply operation, coordination and post-examination of essential public services and special representative of the President, Basil Rajapaksa, held a discussion with officers of the pharmaceutical sector at the Temple Trees yesterday. Difficulties have occurred in purchasing medicines for patients with non-communicable diseases during the curfew-enforced period. A special attention directed over the maintenance of continuous production of local medicines during the discussion. Attention was also directed on imported essential medical stocks during the discussion, and it was stated that the supply of essential medicines can be carried out without a shortage. Importers pointed out that the difficulties in importing medicine from India. Basil Rajapaksa resolved the issue after engaging in a telephone conversation with Indian health authorities. Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Singh said that a mechanism has introduced to distribute medicines for the patients who are being treated in state hospital clinics to their respective residences. He requested the patients to provide correct information through a call to the relevant hospitals if wrong information consists in their respective clinic books. He said that the program has been initiated to purchase medicine from private pharmacies and deliver to the doorstep from day after tomorrow.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has included the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, commercial banks, insurance services and the Treasury in the category of essential services. Health and security services, police, distribution of goods, customs, electricity, water and fuel supply are the other services declared as essential. Accordingly, the Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, today issued a written directive to the Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, to take measures to keep the Central Bank, all banking and insurance companies and their branches, as well as the Treasury, open with a minimum number of staff members. The President, the Secretary to the President, the main staff and the Presidential Secretariat are fully functional every day to deliver their services, Dr. Jayasundara further said in his letter.
And the government says that the Presidential Task Force has been empowered to conduct the relevant operations to normalize the daily life of the public. These steps have been taken in accordance to the powers vested with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa under the Constitution. The President Task Force will be vested with operational authority to maintain daily lives of the public without any hindrance during the process to eradicate coronavirus pandemic from the country. The chairman of the task force is the President's Special Representative Basil Rajapaksa. Additional Secretary to the Prime Minister Anton Pereira has been named as the Secretary of the task force. 40 members of the task force comprised of provincial governors, secretaries of many secretaries, commanders of tri-forces, heads of security divisions including the acting IGP, chairperson of many departments, corporations and authorities and secretaries of districts and divisions. Issuing a special gazette notification, the President has declared the responsibilities and the duties of the task force. The attention of the task force will be directed in all districts while prioritizing high-risk zones for the spread of coronavirus: Colombo, Kalutara, Gampaha, Puttalam, Jaffna, Mena, Kilinochchi, Vaunia and Bulletu districts. Providing facilities for farmer communities engaged in agricultural, grain, export, crop cultivation and fisheries and poultry productions will be among the remaining duties of the task force. Another task is to implement in decisions and coordination with Sri Lanka Port, Customs, commercial banks and other state institutions to assist the importation of commodities including essential dry rations, medicines and the export of goods including tea. Direct distribution of food rations supplied by producers and rural bases and the submission of operational reports to the President are among the duties of the task force. All government officers and the other related officials from who can obtain assistance to provide service should act in accordance to the instructions directed on their respective tasks. The President has informed all state employees and others through a circular to provide all necessary assistance and information accordingly. The task has been entrusted to report on the instances where an officer delay or neglect an assigned duty. In addition to the task force will also have to guide and provide necessary facilities for state institutions such as Agriculture and Agrarian Service Department. The task force has also been directed to facilitate loan assistance for farmers through Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank, Rural Development and Samurdhi branches, encouraging domestic agri-production and other relevant agrarian activities. A special attention will be directed on women, low-income earning families and persons prone for risks. Distribution of food rations and production to the people in all districts should be encouraged in a manner to strengthen the farmers and the economy. The task force has also been tasked to provide facilities for farmlands and cultivation products and organize the trade network among corporate Southern economic centers, Cargill, Skills, Apico and Laughs. The task force will also be empowered to carry out the distribution of medicines, operations of commercial banks and other essential operations and services to normalize the daily life of the public. Special representative of the President Basil Rajapaksa said that the people who receive daily wages have also been categorized under Samurdhi beneficiaries. He said that 1.8 billion people identified to be Samurdhi beneficiaries are yet to be selected for the Samurdhi program. He said that the entire distribution of vegetables has returned to normalcy without the mediation of the government but with the assistance of the tri-forces.
Temasek Foundation Singapore has extended COVID-19 test kits for the Ministry of Health in dealing with the spread of coronavirus in the country. In light of the rapidly evolving COVID-19 situation, Temasek Foundation Singapore has offered to provide 5,000 numbers of Fortitude Kit 2.0 COVID-19 test kits to the Ministry of Health, Sri Lanka. The donation was handed over by the Chief Executive of Temasek Foundation International.
And Sri Lanka Administrative Services Association has donated 2.5 million rupees for the Health and Social Protection Fund for COVID-19 established by the President to eradicate the spread of coronavirus. Chairman of the association Prabhat Chandra Kirti presented the donation to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The association pointed out that establishing this fund to provide relief facilities for the affected persons from the prevailing situation in the country is a timely need. The association also appreciated the efforts undertaken by the President and the Prime Minister to eradicate the coronavirus in the country. They pledged to provide their fullest support for these efforts. A fund has been established by the association to extend the support of the members of the association to fulfill the requirements of the general public. The establishment of the fund has also been notified to the President. Measures have also been taken to provide 750,000 rupees for the district secretaries of Colombo, Kaluthara, Nuwara Eliya and Badulla to provide necessary facilities for the general public.
Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority has taken measures to repatriate tourists stranded in Sri Lanka due to the coronavirus outbreak in the country. SLTDA has pointed out that according to the immigration authorities, approximately 18,093 international tourists are in the country as of yesterday. Issuing a press release, the SLTDA said the government will allow charter flights to fly out remaining tourists on holiday or on work in Sri Lanka upon request. The SLTDA has indicated that the authority is closely working with the Ministry of Foreign Relations and respective embassies and high commissions to arrange necessary facilities. The press release has further said that despite arrivals being suspended into the country, all departures will be supported, as Sri Lankan Airlines has been operating departure flights daily to the UK, Melbourne and Narita. The Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority further requested service providers in the hospitality industry hosting international tourists to support tourists with airport transportation. The Acting Inspector General of Police has assured that the air ticket could be used in lieu of a curfew pass for the passengers as well as the vehicle and driver due to the current curfew in the country. He added, tourists who are unable to find transport to get to the airport have been requested to contact the closest police station or SLTDA 24/7 hotline on 1912. Welcome back. We continue with more news from home. Consumer Affairs Authority has decided to set a maximum wholesale price rate for vegetables traded at the Colombo Manning Market today. The decision was reached after several traders had sold stocks of vegetables at higher price rates in an arbitrary manner. The government decided to conduct the trade activities in the Colombo Manning Market in a health protective and efficient manner amid the enforced curfew for Colombo, Gampaha and Kaluthara districts. The harvesting in several areas across the country has been conducted successfully. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed the acting IGP to provide the opportunity for the transportation and sales of the harvest of the farmers without any interruptions amid the enforced curfew. Accordingly, Colombo Manning Market was opened with the aim to facilitate the sale of harvest. However, several cunning traders have sought for the opportunity to sell vegetables at a higher price rate, with the facilities provided to proceed with their trading activities amid the curfew. Subsequently, Consumer Affairs Authority carried out a raid to identify such traders. The public has indicated that the price rates of the vegetables increased with the time. They requested the President to take legal actions against such culprits. Lal Hettige urged the public to sell vegetables at fair prices during such difficult times. He said that they should honour the decision of the President to provide a commodity package to the people. Subsequently, a discussion was held between the chairman of the Consumer Affairs Authority and the wholesale traders. A decision was reached to grant permission to sell vegetable stocks at a maximum price rate from tomorrow. Accordingly, a kilo of carrots will be at 150 rupees. A kilo of lime will be at 150 rupees, while the maximum price rate of leek and beans will be at 120 rupees. A kilo of beet will be sold at a price of 80 rupees. 1 kilo of capsicum will be at a maximum price rate of 150 rupees, and a kilo of tomatoes will be at 100 rupees. Pumpkins and ash plantains will be sold at a maximum price rate of 70 rupees. A kilo of green chilies will be at 200 rupees. Bitter gourd, eggplant, and onion leaves will be sold at a maximum price of 100. Cucumber, nokol, and gherkin will be at 50 rupees a kilo, while a kilo of snake gourd will be at 70 rupees. Ladies' fingers will be sold at a price of 60 rupees. A kilo of dambala is priced at 70 rupees. A kilo of ginger is at 50 rupees. Chairman of the Consumer Affairs Authority, Major General Shanta Dissanayake, said that legal action will be taken against traders who fail to carry out their businesses under the new maximum price rates. Chairman of the Consumer Affairs Authority, Major General Shanta Dissanayake, said that the Manning market should proceed with their trading activities in accordance to the new price rates. He said that their shops will be confiscated if they fail to abide to the new price rates. He requested the traders to refrain from causing inconveniences for the public. Italy reported 683 new deaths in the coronavirus pandemic, bringing its total to 7,503. Spain, meanwhile, recorded more than 700 deaths over the past 24 hours, surpassing China in the global death toll, making the country now second to only Italy. Meanwhile, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres has launched an appeal for $2 billion in international humanitarian aid to help poorer countries tackle the coronavirus pandemic. The coronavirus COVID-19 has affected 198 countries and territories around the world. At present, more than 486,000 people around the world have been diagnosed with COVID-19. More than 117,000 have recovered, while more than 22,000 people have died. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization's European office has indicated encouraging signs as Italy reported a lower rate of infections of the new coronavirus, yet cautioning it was too early to say whether the worst has passed. China, where the virus first began to spread in late 2019, has seen a sharp drop-off in its rate of new cases. The lockdown in Wuhan and Chinese city, where the global coronavirus outbreak began, will be partially lifted on April 8th. Travel restrictions in the rest of Hubei province were lifted recently. A single new case of the virus was reported in Wuhan on last Tuesday, following almost a week of no reported new cases.
And baton-wielding police in India have been filmed beating people, breaking the coronavirus lockdown rules and making some offenders do physical punishments. India has recorded 694 confirmed cases of coronavirus and 14 deaths thus far.
Like many countries battling the coronavirus pandemic, India is in lockdown. The police here have resorted to physical punishments for those who breach it. Footage has emerged from Mumbai of them beating motorists with their batons. And there have been many such incidents filmed in multiple locations. At one point, police are seen ordering locals to do squats. And they're not the only ones given humiliating public punishments. Some were made to do press-ups at the side of the street. This is a country of 1.3 billion people. It has far fewer hospital beds than other countries currently overwhelmed by the coronavirus. On Wednesday, it went into a 3-week lockdown. It may have only a little over 500 confirmed cases and a very low death toll compared to other countries, but it fears it could follow China, Italy and Spain. Whether the methods police here are using to stop that from happening are the right ones is another matter altogether.
And the Health Ministry says 2 more COVID-19 infected patients have been reported. Meanwhile, 4 other infected patients left the hospital after complete recovery. A total of 104 confirmed cases of coronavirus infected patients has been reported from the country thus far. A female Chinese national was the first coronavirus infected person detected in Sri Lanka. A tour guide was the first Sri Lankan infected with the disease in the island on the 11th of this month. Also, no coronavirus infected patients was reported yesterday. Minister Pavitravani Arachi said that 4 other infected patients left the IDH hospital after complete recovery will be self-quarantining in their respective residences. She said that all patients currently receiving treatment at the IDH hospital should be able to return to their homes for self-quarantine.
අද කොරෝනා රෝගය වැළඳී IDH රෝහලේ ප්‍රතිකාර ලැබපු තවත් 4 දෙනෙක් සුව වී රෝහලෙන් තමන්ගේ නිවාස නිවරෝධානය සඳහා පිටත් කර යවනු ලැබුවා. ඒ අනුව මා විශ්වාස කරනවා අපේ රටේ IDH රෝහලේ ප්‍රතිකාර ලබන රෝගීන් කෙමෙන් සුව වෙච්ච රෝගීන් බවට පත් වෙලා මේ ප්‍රතිකාර ඉවර කරගෙන ස්වයං නිරෝධායනයකට තමන්ගේ නිවස් වලට යනව තොරතුර අපට බොහොම සහනදායී තොරතුරක් කියන එක.
The other patients are currently being treated at IDH Hospital, Valikanda Base Hospital and Mulletiao Base Hospital. Medical examinations are underway on 255 persons suspected to have contracted the disease. The post-examination of the persons returning from China is still in process. Accordingly, 1,600 persons have yet to complete the post-examination period. The renovation of the Communicable Disease Prevention Unit of the Vauna District General Hospital have been carried out by the Sri Lanka Navy. Medical Supply Unit of the Health Ministry has taken measures to distribute necessary personal and protective equipment for 24 hospital and quarantine centres for the treatment of the virus. 800 million rupees have been allocated for the task. Minister Pavitravani Arachi arrived at the Medical Supply Unit to observe the distribution of equipments. Sri Lanka Navy has introduced a disinfection chamber to prevent the spread of coronavirus. It has been designed by the Engineering Technical Naval Unit of the Eastern Naval Command. This has been practically tested in several naval bases. Meanwhile, 2 persons who were self-quarantining in Ratnapura city have completed the quarantine period. Their returnees from Italy and South Korea.
Meanwhile, Spain registered an overnight jump of over 730 deaths from coronavirus yesterday, pushing the death toll above that of China, where the disease originated, for the first time as the country struggled to cope with soaring numbers of infections.
Spain registered a jump of over 730 deaths from coronavirus on Wednesday, pushing its death toll above that of China for the first time. With over 3,400 fatalities, Spain now has the second highest number of deaths globally after Italy, where over 6,800 people have died. Spain is struggling to cope with the soaring number of infections, and public services are overwhelmed. Police have set up testing tents in a bid to cope, and members of a Spanish military unit have disinfected nursing homes where dozens have been found dead across the country, health centres and public spaces, including a fish market and a port terminal. An Olympic-sized ice skating rink in Madrid has even been turned into a makeshift morgue. Spanish medical staff, who themselves account for thousands of infected cases, have taken out lawsuits against the government, complaining of a lack of basic protective equipment like masks, scrubs and gloves. The Spanish army has asked NATO for ventilators, protective gear and testing kits. Spain is in the middle of a 15-day nationwide lockdown, which is likely to be extended to 30 days. Schools, bars, restaurants and most shops are closed. Social gatherings are banned and people are confined to their homes.
And the plight of New Orleans, with the world highest growth rate in coronavirus cases, and where authorities have warned hospitals could collapse by 4th of April, also raises fears it may be a powerful catalyst in spreading the virus across the south of the country. The United States has registered 1,036 COVID-19 deaths as the country confirmed 68,581 cases at present.
New Orleans is on track to become the next coronavirus epicenter in the United States, dimming hopes that less densely populated and warmer climate cities would escape the worst of the pandemic.
And quite sadly, the number of cases in Louisiana continues to rise more drastically than we would like.
Governor John Bell Edwards said on Wednesday that if predictions were correct, the hospitals in New Orleans would struggle to manage past next week.
When we're pushing out the date in Region 1 down around New Orleans, where we think we might exceed our capacity to deliver health care to COVID-19 patients, it would be in the April 4th or 5th timeframe.
New Orleans is the biggest city in Louisiana, the state with the 3rd highest caseload of coronavirus in the United States, behind New York and Washington state. But New Orleans currently has the highest growth rate for infections in the world, leaving many wondering how it spread so rapidly here.
We are in the midst of this.
Dr. Rebecca G., who until January was the health secretary for Louisiana, says it was Mardi Gras.
What we need to focus on now is the fact that we are several weeks post Mardi Gras and we are starting to see that spike. And what the governor has indicated is that we're on a path to look like Italy, and we need to prepare for that. Certainly the measures that we put in are very stringent. The governor and the mayor have been very clear about stay home to save lives. That being said, we're not going to see the impacts of those measures for a week to 2 weeks because that's how long the virus takes to create symptoms.
Some 70% of all Louisiana's confirmed cases to date are in New Orleans. Dr. G., who now heads up LSU's Healthcare Services Division, notes that Fat Tuesday fell on February 25th when the virus was already in the United States, but before the CDC and national leaders raised the alarm with the American public.
We need a better national strategy around how we get resources to those who need it, where they need it, when they need it.
New Orleans could well be the first major domino to fall in the South, starting a chain reaction in other metro areas in the region, according to the dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor College. It's a serious concern for Houston, the fourth largest city in the country and a major center for the oil industry. Houston and New Orleans have historically strong links, made even more so by an influx of New Orleans residents into Houston following Hurricanes Katrina and Harvey.
The number of coronavirus infected patients in Indonesia has increased to 893 with 78 deaths, recording the most deaths in Southeast Asia. The country is urgently building new hospitals as the country's public health system is at risk of being overwhelmed amid the coronavirus outbreak.
Indonesia's government is in a race against time to contain the coronavirus, urgently building new hospitals on its islands and converting a massive stadium into a makeshift hospital. The country of 260 million people is the fourth most populous in the world, but it is lacking enough hospital beds and medical staff, leaving health experts worried that the country could become a new virus epicenter. The country has confirmed over 600 cases so far, but doctors told Reuters that the health system was already under strain. One doctor said she had to wear a raincoat because there were no coveralls available. Indonesia's health system ranks poorly, with only 12 beds and 4 doctors for every 10,000 people. Compare that to the likes of South Korea, that has 6 times the number of doctors for a country with only a fraction of Indonesia's population. Indonesia's 19,000 islands, spanning over 5,000 kilometers, also provide a massive geographic hurdle for the central government. On one of the islands, Galang, all hands are on deck to get the walls up for phase 1 of a new hospital, to be completed in just 3 days. And in Bekasi, east of capital Jakarta, a stadium has been turned into a quasi-hospital, with officials setting up beds and test stations in case local health institutes are overwhelmed. As few as 2% of Indonesia's infections have been reported, according to the London-based Center for Mathematical Modeling of Infectious Diseases.
And the third batch subjected to quarantine was released to return to their residences today. The group comprised of 223 persons. Another batch of 443 persons set to be released from the centers tomorrow after completing the quarantine process. A total of 678 persons directed to quarantine centers have also released following the completion of the quarantine period. Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said that 2,866 persons are continued to be quarantined at 46 quarantine centers. He said that another 443 persons said to be returned to their residences after completing the quarantine process. Compulsory quarantine process on returnees from foreign countries and other tourists was initiated from the 9th of this month. The first batch directed to the quarantine process was released to return to their residences on March 24th. The group was comprised of 311 persons. The quarantine period of the second batch, comprised of 144 persons, was concluded yesterday. The third group, comprised of 223 persons, concluded their quarantine period today and left for their residences. 42 persons in their third group was directed to the quarantine centre established at Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre. The group consists of returnees from Italy and South Korea. Reports have indicated that 38 persons directed to the Diatalava quarantine centre were also among the third batch.
Just Sri Lanka, you guys show us. Just Sri Lanka, you guys show us like the best hospitality I ever experienced, and also whatever what we were in need, you guys just provide us. And I just want to really say thank you to Sri Lankan army and Sri Lankan people. I really got impressed, me, my friends, and all of our team. So it was a great experience for me. Hopefully I can come over next time.
In addition, 125 persons directed to the Ponani centre have also concluded the quarantine process. 18 persons directed to one of the quarantine centres under the Ponani centre have also left to their residences after completing the quarantine process. All the persons in the third batch have also been released from the centres after conducting an efficient health examination. 678 persons have been released for quarantine centre and returned to their respective homes after completing their quarantine centres since March 24th.
දින 14ක් දක්වා නැවතත් නිරෝධායනයට ලක් කරලා තමයි කට්ටිය සමාජයට මුදා හරින්නේ. ඒක ඉතා වැදගත්. මොකද සමාජයේ මතයක් තියෙනවා අපි නිරෝධායනයට ලක් නොකර ඒ කට්ටිය එළියට යනවා කියලා. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි තහවුරු.
Contact Sri Lanka, an online portal jointly created by the Ministry of Foreign Relations and Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka, ICTA, for the benefit of overseas Sri Lankans was launched today at the Ministry of Foreign Relations. The web link is hosted on the Ministry website page www.mfa.gov.lk and also can be accessed at www.contactsrilanka.mfa.gov.lk. Establishment of the portal is pursuant to the call made by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa for coordinated efforts by all government stakeholders to fight the COVID-19 outbreak and to harness digital technology to prompt faster and more efficient service delivery. All Sri Lankans living abroad are invited to register voluntarily on the platform's basic functionalities, allowing the government of Sri Lanka to reach out and provide assistance during emergencies such as the COVID-19 outbreak. This platform will allow the ministry to access real-time data for quick action. The open access platform would also facilitate overseas Sri Lankans to interact between government stakeholders, promoting greater access to the government services through a single centralized point at the Ministry of Foreign Relations. This portal will also connect overseas Sri Lankans with the network of Sri Lanka's mission abroad. In the long term, the portal will be expanded and is expected to serve as an official source of information and facilitate overseas Sri Lankans in obtaining a wider range of digital services offered by the government.
And meanwhile, the central bank has issued the circular for the relief package extended by the president. Accordingly, Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that relief package has been implemented. These remarks were made during the media briefing held to announce the cabinet decisions at the Government Information Department. Core Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the cabinet approval was granted on March 20th for the package to provide relief for various entitles affected from the coronavirus. He said that a circular was submitted to the cabinet yesterday, issued for banking and release leasing institutions after obtaining the approval of the central bank. He said that the proposal made by the President to suspend the payment of leasing loan installments of three-wheelers, buses and other vehicles for 6 months. He said that the debt payment for the salaries of the employees of state sector and private sector, except for the board of directors, has also been postponed till May 30th. He said that steps have also been taken to halt the payment of personal loans below 1 billion obtained from banks and financial institutions have been suspended for 3 months. He said that local transaction up to 50,000 rupees with monthly credits will be under an interest of 15% and minimum monthly payment will be reduced for 50%. He also said that Agrahara insurance benefit for the state sector employees, including health, police and civil defense engaged in coronavirus eradication process, have been doubled. He added that some of the beneficiaries and some of the card holders can obtain an interest less advance payment of 10,000 rupees from some of the banks. The central
ණයපත් වලින් ගණදෙනු කරන අයට ණයපොලි අනුපාතය 15% දක්වා අඩු කරන්නට තීරණය කළා තියෙනවා. ඒ ආපසු ගෙවීමේදී මාසිකව ගෙවිය යුතු මුදල
Tamsek Foundation Singapore has extended COVID-19 test kits for the Ministry of Health in dealing with the spread of coronavirus in the country. In light of the rapidly evolving COVID-19 situation, Tamsek Foundation Singapore has offered to provide 5,000 numbers of Fortitude Kit 2.0 COVID-19 test kits to the Ministry of Health, Sri Lanka. The donation was handed over by Chief Executive Officer of Tamsek Foundation International, Benedict Sheong, to High Commissioner to Singapore Shashikala Premawardena on March 20, 2020 at the High Commission premises. The High Commission has promptly made arrangements to deliver the test kits to Sri Lanka, which have been received by the health authorities in Colombo on March 22, 2020. Fortitude Kit 2.0 is designed by Singapore's Agency for Science, Technology and Research to detect the SARS-CoV-2 virus. The kit comes complete with all the materials required for the RT-PCR reaction, which includes the Premier probes mix, the enzyme mix, the positive control, negative control and internal control template, and would be able to give results in less than 3 hours. The High Commission, on behalf of the Ministry of Health of Sri Lanka, expressed gratitude to Tamsek Foundation for the assistance, which will be immensely useful in Sri Lanka's efforts in dealing with the COVID-19 situation. This donation is also a testimony to the long-standing friendly relations between Singapore and Sri Lanka.
And the Postal Department has decided to open all postal and sub-postal offices a minimum of 2 hours on daily basis during the curfew lifting periods. The Postal Department has said that this decision was reached in accordance to the instructions directed by Minister Bandula Gunawardena. The decision was reached to assign vehicles and staff of the Postal Department to district secretaries for the distribution of essential consumer commodities. On the department has also shown the interest in providing their office premises for operational purposes. According to the instructions provided by the task force to control the spread of coronavirus, plans have been made to deliver medicines issued by the state hospitals for the patients. Another decision has been reached to open the branches of the Bank of Ceylon in city limits during the curfew imposed periods. The banks will be open from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. This has also been made in accordance to the instructions of the President. The State Services United Nurses Association has said that the nurses and other health sector employees will not be deprived of their leave by staying in their respective residences until they have been called for duty, as the nurses and other health sector employees have also been divided into groups and assigned for various duties. And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do it just tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.